In some cases, tenants will not allow landlords to do viewings at the end of a tenancy, and this can cause quite a lot of angst. In practice, I usually find it's a revenge thing from tenants, and so the first point to bear in mind is it's always worth trying to make sure you have a good relationship with your tenants. If the tenant won't allow viewings, it's really difficult to do a lot about it, even if you have a clause in your agreement saying the tenant has to have viewings, this has to allow access for viewings. You can't just go and boot the door down and do the viewings. It's often worth writing to the tenant and pointing to the clause and saying they've already agreed to it and being a bit pushy about it. But if a tenant digs their heels in, the only real option would be to try and seek an injunction from the court to allow viewings, which in practice you won't get. Or if you could prove after the fact that the tenant had prevented you from getting a letting and you'd suffered a loss or damage as a result, then you might be entitled to claim damages for the breach of contract. But in practice that's almost impossible to prove in most cases, because you're proving a completely putative possibility that hasn't actually occurred. So if you can't agree with them, then there's not a lot you can do. One option, and certainly one that's worth considering, is whether some kind of deal can be struck in terms of giving the tenant a bit of money, maybe letting them go a week early if that's what they want, or giving them another week. Sometimes you find tenants are actually after something when they do these things, and often you'll have a lot of complaints from tenants or refusal to allow something that seems otherwise reasonable because the tenant's after something. And by approaching them saying, look, you're in breach of the terms of your contract, but is there something I can do to make this more agreeable to you? You might actually undercover what the tenant's actual objective is, and it may be something that actually isn't that much of a problem for you.